As Jenny kindly said, my name's JD, jdconsultancy.com.au. That's my day job. My part-time job is as the lead for PASA Agile. PASA is an events and conferencing business in Australia and New Zealand, specialising in professional procurement. It also runs a vibrant training programme and a large procurement community, which runs about 120 industry roundtables a year. And now PASA Agile, which is a training, coaching and consulting offering in Agile Procurement, which is why I'm the perfect person to tell you all about Agile Procurement today. So that's all about me. Don't need that. Procurement needs a new story. This is why. There's lots of problems, lots of complaints from stakeholders, but really there's only one complaint. Why, oh why does it take so long? That's it. Why does it take so long? Why does it take months and months and months, sometimes years, for a go-to-market sourcing exercise? This is the 6-step procurement lifecycle process, the journey of a procurement from inception, the opportunity, right through the contracting phase, which is the go-to-market bit we all know and love, the acquisition strategy in the middle, right through to performance and contract management and delivery of benefit. There's any number of different ways you can define the life cycle process, but here's a nice one. It's got nice pastel colours, and I like these words: opportunity, need, market, strategy, execution, performance. And they really get to the focused issue that procurement's trying to deliver. The problem is it all takes so long. And what we have to do, I think, in procurement, and what the COVID crisis taught us, as procurement jumped through hoops and did amazing things in those first few weeks and months. And stakeholders loved it. Procurement showed a real sense of urgency, an alignment to business needs, real business needs. They built relationships very quickly. They got on with it. They got things done in 3 days flat. Stakeholders loved it. And I think procurement's built something of a rod for its own back. That success now is the standard. Wait till next year. We get into next year, February, March or something, and you can almost hear the refrain. What do you mean 9 months for a go-to-market exercise? You did it in 3 days during the crisis. And what procurement was doing in the crisis was speeding up the process. Not necessarily cutting process, just speeding it up in super fast time. They were clarifying the true needs of their customers. They were working much more collaboratively. They were forging solutions and doing it from home as well. And what they were doing was capturing the benefits of their procurement for their business much earlier. They're the principles of Agile Procurement. Agile Procurement doesn't just mean faster. It means more responsive. There's a subtle difference. Yes, speed's very much part of it, but more than anything, it's really about the responsiveness to needs, and not just the responsiveness to changing needs, because everything changes all the time. And the COVID crisis taught us that, didn't it? If nothing else has. So Agile Procurement is really a response to the need for responsiveness. The Agile business philosophy was outlined in the Agile Manifesto 20 years ago. It was designed for the software industry, particularly software development, those sclerotic software development processes that took forever and always came in 5 times longer than they should have done and cost 10 times more than they should have done. Everybody wondered why. And that's really what Agile came in to do. And what happened 5 years ago was a bloke called Mirko Kleiner, based in Zurich, Switzerland, who was an Agile coach working in software development, was asked to do a procurement project to buy some IT software, particularly an ERP system for a company called CKW in Germany. The catch was he was asked to do it in 2 days. Yep, they bought an ERP system in 2 days flat. And to do it, what they did was fuse the principles of Agile and software and IT development with the process in procurement. And what Mirko noticed straight away was how process-heavy procurement was, how long it took, and how ripe for disruption it was. And he invented Agile Procurement. He formed a group called the LAP Alliance, the Lean Agile Procurement Alliance. You can look up their website. It's leanagileprocurement.com. Not very original. leanagileprocurement.com, and there's loads of useful stuff on there. Some of it's in German, but that's just sporting, translating it. So, what did they do? They fused Agile philosophy with procurement process, and they made it a lot better, faster, cheaper, greener, safer in the process. I'll explain how. So they took the principles of Agile, because Agile isn't a process. Agile is a mindset. Agile coaches talk about being agile. And there's lots of organizations, lots of businesses, including in the public sector, I have to say, some of them very successful in the public sector, who are turning themselves into much more agile organizations. They have an agile department, they have their own agile coaches, they have their own agile team within HR or internal business consulting, and they're very successful at doing some things in an agile way. Now procurement's been added to the list. So agile is a mindset. It's about being agile. It's defined by 4 values, 12 principles, any number of practices and tricks and processes and approaches that you can name. They include the Scrum Master, of course. They include the stand-ups, the daily stand-ups, the big room workshops, and all the jargon that comes with it. But deploying agile procurement and all of those things, they were obviously by an ERP system in 2 days flat. It's been widely recognised in procurement land as a great success. And what particularly delivered was 4 times quicker for speed to value. That is because the procurement was so much quicker, they were capturing the benefits of that procurement for their organisation so much quicker. And those benefits more than paid for any increment in the process or the cost. So they reckoned on audit at CKW of that particular project, which was really the validation of the agile procurement approach, the fusing of these 2 things, the agile mindset with the procurement process, that they could move 4 times faster for half the effort, still bring in 80% of the savings they intended to. 90% of the people that went through that project would hardly recommend it as a way forward in future. And these are consistent refrains from all the case studies since that first one back in 2016. It sounds yesterday, doesn't it? But it's nearly 5 years ago now. So what was really happening was we were concertinaing the procurement process. And if you know IT, you'd know the phrase defrag. That's using all the space on your hard drive and squishing everything up to use less space. Exactly the same process. You see, the first thing that happens when we set up a procurement project in a big organization is everybody starts sending emails to each other. And then they start trying to arrange a meeting. Well, let's get together and discuss this, and discuss the needs or the specification or the opportunity. And we could get together next Thursday. Oh, you can't do Thursday. What about the following? Oh, I can't do that. What about the Wednesday? Oh, so-and-so's away. They're in Singapore. Never mind. Make it the week after. All right, we can all get together that day for a first meeting. Great. Just wasted 3 weeks. There's your problem. 3 weeks right out the window. And that keeps happening over and over again. Once you get the key players in the room, just for a day or 2, you can concertina that process very much quicker. And you can be much more responsive because you get much more discussion about what's truly needed. We spark off each other. You can do it on Zoom. It doesn't have to be the same room, but you need a concentrated period together. And if the stakeholders can't manage that, well, obviously it's not an important enough project then. We'll come back to that idea. So what we're doing is we're concertinaing the process, not taking shortcuts. And then what we're doing is bringing business benefit to the organisation far quicker. It's not a new concept in itself. I should rebrand this slide, Jenny. I do apologise. IACCM, now WCC, of course, have talked about the idea before of so much effort being in the procurement process, the go-to-market bit, yielding the least benefit. And that actually is far more benefit before going to market and after going to market, managing the contracts and delivery post-award, or right upstream, discussing the commercial strategy before you engage the market. But we also have to recognise a new reality that speed is important in itself. I used to work for a big entrepreneur. He was a billionaire, and you learn a lot working for people like that. Not least that he's 51% brilliant and 49% bloody awful. Anyway, he had a point. He believed in speed as well. I used to say to him, but we're going so fast, we'll make mistakes. It doesn't matter, he said, because we're going so fast, we'll put them right fast. We'll fail our way to success. That's an orthodoxy today. Back then, it was revolutionary, certainly for a blue chip trained corporate manager. Very frightening. But I learned to recognize the value of speed. And in this context, that speed is bringing business benefits so much earlier. So we empower ourselves with agile approaches, agile things, and the principles of self-organization. The team can organize itself if it's empowered to do so. We don't need to keep sending missives up the chain to ask permission to do little things. We get empowerment at the start. We get a control framework at the start agreed, don't go outside it, and you can get on and do the job. We work to SUMO. It's a crude an acronym for shut up and move on. In other words, near enough's good enough. You know, we chase perfection all day long, but once we've got 80% of the benefit, we can move on, hopefully from 20% of the effort. It's all about cross-functional collaboration as well. Cross-functional teams working together with procurement enabling the team, not leading the team. The team's led by the product owner. That's the program manager, the project manager, if you like, the person responsible for bringing that business benefit into the organization. It's their project. It's not procurement's project. Procurement's enabling it and helping it. That's our job in this context. So, of course, it includes the scrums, it includes the sprints, the 2-week or 4-week sprints, it includes the scrum master, an extraordinary amount of post-it notes. But that's Agile for you. The 4 values of Agile are profoundly important. And really, if you take nothing else away from a definition of Agile procurement, take away only the 4 values of Agile, the Agile Manifesto, written by the Gate Guru 20 years ago. These are profoundly important. And they'll challenge defence procurement in a very real way, I think. Number 1, individuals' interactions are much more important than processes and tools, because it's about responsiveness. Your idea and my idea make a better idea. It's about working solutions and about what works. It's not about comprehensive documentation. It's not about sitting locked in a room for weeks on end with a blank pad of A4 trying to write a definitive specification for what you want. You don't really know what you want. Customers usually don't. And it keeps changing anyway in terms of what's available. The market's changing all the time. Technological evolution is rapid. It's all going on without us while we sit in a room pondering it. It's about what works. The suppliers have got a role to play in that. Thirdly, it's about collaboration with our customers, the stakeholders and their needs, and with suppliers as well. Much better than contract negotiations, adversarial discussions to forge or fight our way to a conclusion. Better to collaborate. Your idea and my idea makes a third idea, which is better than both. And as I've already said, it's about responsiveness, not speed in itself, and certainly not about writing a plan down and sticking to it through thick and thin for years on end. That's a procurement thing. Procurement do that to the point where the only person still following the plan is a procurement manager and everybody else has moved on. Because things keep changing. That's why. So principles of Agile fit into the values of Agile as well, and we don't really have time to go through that. The most important thing is at all times you keep a customer focus. And that is a focus on the real customer, the person that's benefiting from your contribution. So in industry, that's the consumer in the high street buying the goods and services. It's the family that buy the new car. It's the government that buy a new battleship. The customer focus. Who is the customer and how do they benefit from a more agile approach? So the business case for agile procurement is about improved time to market. Or as I said earlier on, speed to value. An interesting byproduct of the agile approach is something that people come to value the most during the process, which it gives you a chance to work with suppliers to try and buy before you commit. And you get to evaluate the people you're going to work with much better. You build relationships, you learn to collaborate and work with them. And along the way, you find out which of them get it, which of them get you, which of them you can work with. In the surveys, after all the case studies these last 5 years on agile procurement, we do them after every one. What we're learning through the LAP Alliance, this is all the agile procurement coaches working together, collaborating, if you like, in an agile way. What we're learning is people most value the ability to work with people who they value and who value them. They value the relationship. And that drives much more innovation. Your idea and my idea. And of course, we're moving much faster, so we use less procurement resource. And agile costs the suppliers less. No 2-year bidding cycles, it's all over in a flash. And it's a much lower cost of sale for them. So, lots of benefit from an agile approach, but the idea is we're more responsiveness and we're bringing those business benefits into the organization quicker. So when would you use agile procurement? And this is a common problem that procurement have, I think, when you first explain agile procurement and they become quick enthusiasts, advocates, champions, disciples of it. And of course, they misuse it sometimes, that's true. because they see it as a solution far too often. It's one golf club in your bag, one tool in your box. It's one thing to use when the time's right. The way to work out whether agile procurement is right for you or not is largely down to the complexity of the procurement you're running. We have simple procurements. You don't need an agile procurement process to go out and buy the stationery. You just raise a purchase order or use your corporate card or just phone up, who cares? A complicated procurement doesn't need an agile procurement process, because a complicated procurement, you know your inputs well enough, but you know your outputs as well. You can be quite articulate about what your outputs are. You know what success looks like. So you don't need an agile procurement process to help you forge that. I think that's a critical difference. There's a good example on a training course last year where someone said, oh, we've got a very complex procurement and we have to provide food to aged care homes. It's got to be the right food at the right temperature, at the right time, at the right place, with no nuts in it and the right ingredients for the right patient. Very complex. No, it's not complex. It's complicated. It's complicated to get right, but in that sentence, that chief procurement officer defined very well what success looked like. They knew what success was, they just had to reliably deliver it. You don't need an agile procurement process for that, because agile works best when you're unraveling complexity. In other words, you know what the inputs are, but you're buggered if you know what the outputs are going to be. There's a lot of uncertainty about how this is going to go. We don't quite know how we're going to do this. We don't quite know when we're going to be able to deliver it. We don't quite know what it's going to cost in the end. And that's where you need a more agile approach, I believe. And that can tip over and go too far when you don't know what your inputs are at all. You don't know what your outputs are at all. You're in a chaotic process. And that's more about research and development. It's more about joint ventures. It's about risk sharing. It's about alliance contracting, if you like, different approaches. And for things that massive, you know, almost form a company to do it. And you can share risk and you can share the gain, or gain share, pain share. And that's a different kettle of fish again. So I think there's a niche spot where agile procurement works really well. And I think it's where there's complexity involved and you're not too certain of how it's going to go. And where you need to work better and more collaboratively together. So the way in which lean procurement works is by using a canvas. A canvas is a one-page business plan, and yet it's on one page, and here it is. Here's a picture of it. It's color-coded and it's boxed. So on the orange bit in the middle, we define true north, and that's the mission statement for the project. This is what we're trying to do in a sentence. What we're trying to do here is, and if you can say that and define it in a sentence, and sometimes that takes a lot of work to be able to do it, then that's where we all keep focused on true north. The green side is the buyer side, it's the procurement side. We fill in our needs, top right. We look at our alternatives under that. We look at the timings we want, and here's where we put our conditions. We're going to buy some widgets, they've got to be red ones, they've got to come on Tuesdays, and all that's non-negotiable. Our conditions around our needs. The blue bit is the bit that the supplier fills in, your partner. They fill in their capabilities. They offer their unique selling propositions, their unique selling points, the USPs. They offer their commercial terms and their technical solution and their credentials, their validation of why them, and the people that are going to do the work, which you match with the people who are going to do the work on your side. And you fill in one canvas for each supplier as you go through the process. And the canvas is very much a living document, a living one-page business plan. That's the whole idea of it. And in true agile project mythology, when you've completed the canvas and it's on the wall in a big wall chart or on flip charts, when it's complete and everyone's happy with it, they sign it, all of them. And it's an agile contract. Imagine that, to buy your next battleship or Bell helicopter. We'll come back to that. So really what you're doing with the canvas is answering those famous questions, the 5 whiskies in the hotel, why we're doing this project, what we're doing, who's doing it, and how we're doing it. And that's really all a canvas is, with this huge focus on true north, which is the really important bit of the project. And keeping a focus on that is the most critical thing. So what we're doing is using our canvas to plot our way through a process of plan, prepare, do. And in this way, agile procurement is absolutely not a shortcut. what Agile Procurement is concertinaing the process through a plan, prepare, do mindset, initialization, preparation, delivery of the 2-day workshop, which is the bit that everybody focuses on, the bit where you say, yeah, we bought it in 2 days, and what happens in that room, which I'll come on to. Importantly, I want to stress that it's a cross-functional team that are using the canvas. It's not a procurement device, it's something for the whole team to use. And it's something for the supplier to contribute to. And each supplier, as I said, has their own in their 2-day process, and then you choose the winner, as it were. And that big room workshop, that we call it, the supplier engagement workshop, fits into your lean Agile procurement roadmap, which you outline at the beginning of the process. And of course, it's a flexible roadmap because everything's flexible in Agile. Everything's Agile. But this guides our way forward from initialization of the project through to the signature of the contract, the Agile agreement, if you like. And that can take different forms. And pricelessly, it's a very quick process. The idea is to get a 9-month process down to 9 weeks, or a 9-week process down to 9 months, or in defense terms, sometimes a 9-year process down to 9 months. So here's a photograph of a real big room workshop. I told you about the post-it notes, I think. And on the left here, this lady in the blue jacket, she's the program manager. She's the project manager. She's the product owner of the process. It's her team that benefit from the acquisition of this ERP system in this case. And the people involved are people on her side and people on the supplier side. And these are the working people that actually make things happen. The people that know where the rubber hits the road, how it really happens, who are working collaboratively to forge solutions. And yet, 3 suppliers in the room. It's called a big room workshop because it's a big room. So you can imagine the room with a small stage and an area in the middle, with a very small area in the middle with theatre seating and a screen, a projector, and around the side, 3 stations in 3 corners, 1 for each supplier, big tables and chairs and loads of workboards and whiteboards, and then 1, the other corner, for the buying team. All the key decision makers are in the room, the key people, because you're going to be able to make decisions. We can't say, I'll have to get back to you on that, I'll just go and phone people. You can phone, but they've got to be there. And if you can't, well, we move on without you. It's an agile process. Sumo, shut up and move on. We're moving on. If you can't play anymore, bye. And that's really how it works. It doesn't work like that in practice. By the time you get to that point, the suppliers have a little bit of agile training as well, and everyone buys into that process. So this is called the Big Room Workshop. It's 2 days. You go through different rounds. So the buyer asks different questions as we go through, and it's a substitute, really, for the tender process. Tell us a bit about your company. You've got 7 minutes, go. Everybody gets 7 minutes. And crucially, everybody sees everybody else's presentation. Yes, everyone's in the audience. Yes, your competitors. So if you're a supplier pitching for the work, your competitors are watching. Scary, eh? Except, sort of already know that. You're not telling us anything we didn't already know. The secret bits are special IP or innovations you don't want your competitors to know, or the price, and then go in your envelope. And you pass the envelope to the buying team. Or there's breakout rooms. You can go into private breakout rooms. And sometimes there's open rounds where it's an open round, everybody presents, everybody sees. And there's closed rounds, which are in breakout rooms. You might go through 10, 12, 15, 20 rounds over 2 days. And they can be very short. And it puts a lot of pressure on the sales team, who usually camped in the hotel around the corner. And they're normal days, 9 till 5. We don't go longer than that. And the buying team, but the sales team sometimes work through the night. It's a much concertinaed approach. It's much more iterative. It's much more flexible. It's much more responsive. I could talk about it for a long time. There's no need, really. I think the principles are there. And this principle, especially, plan, prepare, do. So a 9-week process might be a 2-day big room workshop, but it might take 3 weeks to plan, 6 weeks to prepare, and 2 days to execute. And that's important to grasp as well. So it's a little bit of a furphy to say we bought an ERP in 2 days. We did, but it took 9 weeks to prepare for it. And that case study is Auckland Council, and they are one of the leading exponents of Agile Procurement in New Zealand. Our partners at Pareto Toolbox, based in Auckland, that's PASA's partners. They're leading exponents of Agile Procurement as well, part of our group. And they run those or support those processes with Auckland Council and a range of other clients in New Zealand. So here's a photograph of the CEO at KW1, and the facilitator is often an Agile coach, this guy here at the front. And I told you about the post-it notes and the suppliers paying particular attention to the buyer's needs. Crucially, the results are all projected on the wall. After each round, the buying teams score, sometimes weighted scoring, each supplier, and then publish the results on the wall. So each supplier can see how they go. And those of you that are saying, what about probity? What about compliance? What about the fairness of the process? Well, actually, usually for big organizations, the biggest organizations, the probity advisors on the buying team. They love it because it's completely transparent. And the supplier feedback process is a lot easier because guess what? They already know. They've seen it unfold before themselves. They can see where they are on the board and they see where they need to pick the game up. So it's pretty obvious by the end of 2 days who's won and why. So that's about it, I think. We can skip through the rest of this. I'll refer you to paz@agile.com, of course. All you need to know about Agile Procurement is there. What I've just explained to you is all written down in a white paper. It's free to download off that website, just help yourself. And in addition, you'll find the blogs menu item there. And they're all the most recent and up-to-date best articles about Agile Procurement and how it's applied. And they're written by Harvard Business Review, McKinsey, Bain, Forbes, and other names you know from the business world, and PASA as well. So help yourself. They're all there as a resource. That's me. Thank you for your time. Jenny, I think it's time to get back to you, perhaps.
Hi, JD. Hi, that was fantastic. I was actually going to give you a couple more minutes. I realized we were a bit late.
Oh, right, I'll go back again and do some more.
Thank you. That was a great whistle stop through. I've been advertising the PASA and the Lean Agile Procurement in the NZDIA newsletters. So if it seemed familiar, that's because we've been putting it up. I've done the first part of the course and now I'm doing the advanced program. Unfortunately, I'm missing the most exciting segment this afternoon. But on the other hand, JD was supposed to be there too. So anyway, I encourage people to have a look at it. Great fun course, learning something every time we're together as a team. So we'll get Jonathan back and again. Thank you for your time. Lovely to see you and talk soon. Awesome.
Thanks, Jenny. Thank you, everybody. Cool. Goodbye.